The news continues in Southern Africa. Prior to the nation's scheduled general elections on Wednesday, Zimbabwean authorities on Thursday barred hordes of journalists from several international media outlets and deported 4 regional democracy activists upon their arrival at the Robert Gabriel Mugabe International Airport. Now, journalist and Good Governance CEO Chris Maroleng claims he and a group of election observers and researchers were part of those expelled from Zimbabwe. According to him, immigration authorities showed up at their hotel and demanded to see their documentation. Now joining me on the news at this hour is journalist and Good Governance CEO Chris Maroleng, of course joining from Gauteng in South Africa to give us, an insight into this particular story. Thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Thank you very much for having me on your program. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so let's dive in, straight in. Could you just let us in on how all of this unfolded and if there is any circumstances that triggered it?
In our view at Good Governance Africa, which is an applied policy research think tank, we had gone to Zimbabwe to simply undertake research around the governance conditions prior to the elections. And we also intended to be in Zimbabwe during the period that elections were going to be held, which is effectively on the 23rd of August. When we look at what we had done, we had been in the country and permitted into the country after having sought this permission from the Zimbabwean embassy in South Africa to basically travel to Zimbabwe. We, in our view, had not undertaken anything that could have resulted in this process of us being kicked out summarily from Zimbabwe. Just one more thing. I think it would be correct for me to really point out to the viewers today and anyone who is interested in the situation in Zimbabwe that what happened to us was not a lawful deportation. In actual fact, it was a summary ejection from Zimbabwe without cause, without formal notification, and also without reason for why we were ultimately kicked out. As I sit here before you today, I don't know why we were ejected from Zimbabwe.
All right. I mean, just to give us a clear understanding of what happened, were you in any way physically harassed or assaulted? And also, as a follow-up to that, do you believe that your deportation was a deliberate attempt by the government to suppress journalism and, of course, limit press freedom during the elections?
Again, let me correct you by saying that we were not engaged in journalism. I currently work for an applied policy research think tank known as Good Governance Africa. And we undertake credible, verified research. We are not involved in journalism. So the whole journalism thing does not apply. The second aspect that I want to point out is that, no, in actual fact, we were not physically harmed by the officials who engaged with us. In actual fact, they were quite courteous in their engagement. And in our interrogation with them, they indicated to us that they could not see any fault that we had carried out. And in actual fact, they left the room to confer with their superiors. It was on coming back to the room that they indicated to us that their superiors had instructed them to remove us from Zimbabwe with immediate effect, not to deport us, remove us, because no legal grounds were given for our ejection from Zimbabwe. So this was simply arbitrary, without reason or formal cause. We still do not know why we were removed from Zimbabwe, having conducted what we thought was pre-approved research into electoral conditions in that country prior to general elections on the 23rd.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Chris.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.